Welcome back, beautiful people. You are listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Now, up in just a few, we have the Scandals segment with returning contributor Imran Ansari of Idala Bertuna Commons, otherwise known as ABK Law, right here in New York City. We're going to be covering the Jussie Smollett case and all it entails. Now, initial charges brought in February of 2019 accused the former Empire actor of faking the assault were soon after tossed. But a year later, in February of 2020, after a special prosecutor looked into the case, a new 6-count indictment was filed. Currently, the 39-year-old Jussie Smollett charged under Illinois' disorderly conduct statute. He faces 6 counts of disorderly conduct under a subsection of the law that prohibits false reports to police. Now, some states don't categorize false reports as disorderly conduct, and that is important to note. The charges are listed as class 4 felonies, which are among the least serious felonies in Illinois, but convictions can still carry potential prison time of up to 3 years. Now, back in January of 2019, when the news broke of the alleged racist attack on the star from one of the most popular shows on TV, Empire, it riveted the public and drew our nation into a heated discussion about race, politics, and celebrity. Democrats and media figures were very quick to condemn, but what they described as a racist and homophobic attack against actor Jussie Smollett, blaming it on a culture of hate fostered by the then President Trump. But their words came back to bite them now that Jussie faces up to years in prison for what I foresee will come out to be a fabricated assault. Now, Jussie originally told police back in 2019 that 2 masked men attacked him outside his apartment at 2 a.m. in Chicago, hurled racist and homophobic slurs at him, threw chemicals on him, looped a noose around his neck, and told him that he was in MAGA country. Now, Jussie spent the night in the hospital following the incident and was released without any serious injuries. But as the investigation continued, growing skepticism about Jussie's story didn't add up, and enormous pressure on Chicago PD to get to the bottom of what really happened mounted. Now, here to break it all down for us is my superstar legal expert and analyst and Court TV host and partner at ABK Law, Imran Ansari. Welcome back, superstar.
Thanks for having me, Zen. Always great to be on with you.
What is going on here? This is bizarre, to say the least.
Absolutely. I think the Jussie Smollett case is one of the most unique and sort of scandalous cases that we've had in recent history in terms of the legal world and legal news. Not only was Jussie Smollett charged and then those charges dropped, and he was charged again and indicted again under this disorderly conduct theory of the law or charges of the law for making the false reports to police. He's now on trial, Zen, and it's a trial that is full of twists and turns, not only with the witnesses who are testifying against Jussie Smollett, but even between the attorneys, the defense attorneys and the judge. We know that one of the defense attorneys, Miss Walker, accused Judge Lynn of physically lunging at her during a sidebar, and that is now also something which sort of colors this case with a lot of scandal, a lot of interesting aspects, and it's going to be something that we're going to be watching both in the legal world, Zen, and also in the entertainment Hollywood world.
You know, it's interesting that you brought up Judge Lynn, because he, to my understanding, Judge Lynn was trying to get the defense to wrap it up, telling attorneys they were getting into something that was quote unquote collateral. And then you have this Tamara Walker on Smollett's attorney. She's one of them, right? She asked for a sidebar conversation and she requested a mistrial due to this collateral comment. But did he or didn't he lunge at her? Was it her point of view? Was it really just this, distraction perhaps? Is it even valid or not? Because according to those comments, she seemed upset at the perception that the defense was being blocked from carrying out a crucial line of questioning. But I'm not really sure how that adds up.
Yes, and she was questioning one of the 2 brothers who were involved in this alleged setup fake assault. And while she was questioning him, she was going into certain comments and posts that he may have allegedly made in the past, which may have been homophobic or directed at homosexuals in a manner which was not very flattering. And in that way, she was getting at those questions on cross. There was objections, and the judge shut it down, said those were collateral areas that were not relevant to this case. Now we hear that they had what's known as a sidebar, which is when the jury is, excused from the courtroom, the attorneys speak with the judge. And this is something that I have never heard before, Zen, in recent history during the course of the trial, where one of the attorneys is accusing the judge of, almost lunging at her in a physically aggressive manner. I don't know what's going to happen with this, because we know the mistrial was denied by the judge, by Judge Lynn, the motion for a mistrial based on that. But we will see how that plays out down the line in terms of if there's any sort of a complaint made to the judiciary regarding that behavior, and if there's going to be an inquiry to see if that really happened.
Right. And, Jussie's attorneys, Jussie's lawyers have really sought to portray the brothers as false friends and opportunists who lied to police when they were caught to get out of being charged. And during their cross-examinations, defense attorney Shay Allen accused one of the brothers, Bola, of asking for a $2 million payout from the actor to not testify against him at trial, which of course he denied. And then Allen also suggested that Bola and Jussie were more than friends, right? And then you have defense attorney suggesting Bola had used knowledge that Jussie had a crush on him, including going to a gay bathhouse together where he claimed they masturbated together. But in contrast, she's also accusing the other brother, Ola, of being homophobic and questioning him about a prior felony conviction and several weapons that were found at the family's house. So, is the credibility of these brothers viable? I don't know. But the timeline of the fact that they had been hired as extras on the film set of Empire and had a relationship that was ongoing with Jussie, something smells fishy.
Yes, and what the defense team were trying to do with these witnesses, which are really the key witnesses for the prosecution in this case, because they were integral into this alleged fake assault. They were, really assisted Jussie Smollett in making this thing happen. So they're really key witnesses. And what the defense had to do or tried to do was attack their credibility. And that's what we've seen happening in court, because this is a unique situation where the credibility of Jussie Smollett is really on trial here, because it is disorderly conduct charges, which are in the sort of context of making false reports. Basically to boil it down, is Jussie Smollett guilty of lying, making up this whole assault, and causing, the state of Illinois to really expend a lot of time, money, and effort in chasing a false claim. So credibility, both of the witnesses and of the defendant, are really important here.
Agreed. And, the question is, and really the only narrative that has come to the jury so far is from the siblings, right? These two brothers. And the only chance I think Jussie has of beating these charges, if he does have a chance of beating them, is by really telling the jurors his version of what happened. And as to the importance of a defendant testifying, one need look no further than the recent trial in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where Kyle Rittenhouse was acquitted of all charges after he testified that he fatally shot two men and wounded another because he feared for his own life. They won the case by putting him on. The jury believed him. But in this case, is it too risky for Jussie?
So Zen, it's really you have two forks in the road, right? And both of them may lead to disaster in this case, in terms of having Jussie Smollett testify, because again, this is really about Jussie Smollett's credibility. You put him on the stand and the prosecution are going to go at him like no other. They're going to be, really looking to attack him on cross-examination and show that he can't be trusted, that he's not credible. And that's why the jury should find him guilty of the charges. But then on the other hand, the defense also has a problem, because they have all these the stories coming out from these brothers, from the other prosecution witnesses. And without Jussie Smollett getting on the stand and explaining those testimonies away and giving his version of what happened, they're really left with a hard case to put forward before that jury in terms of the defense. So it's
Agreed.
really, Jussie Smollett, if he testifies, it can hurt him. But then again, if he doesn't testify, it can hurt him.
It could hurt him, right? But testifying, you're right, could pose all kinds of problems for Jussie, starting with the need to explain how the brothers knew they would run into him in the dead of a brutally cold night in an unfamiliar neighborhood as he returned from a sandwich shop, as he claimed, unless he told them he was there, right? So also, if he's convicted, Jussie Smollett's words could land him in yet more trouble because he could be penalized by a judge for not testifying. But if he takes the stand and the judge believes he purged himself, he can add, of course, jail or prison time. So I think Smollett's going to end up testifying. And even if his attorneys beg him not to, he's going to do it, because we've got a guy who is so arrogant and self-centered that he thinks that he can make people believe what he says is true and schmooze the jury to get them to like him. And this isn't Hollywood. It's just not going to happen. People could see right through this story.
Yeah, Zen, it's really one that leaves you scratching your head, because Jussie Smollett, he wasn't someone who was totally unknown. I mean, he had a role in Empire, and he had an acting career that could have grown. And you sort of question why, if this was a fake assault, right? As the allegations of the prosecution have it.
Right.
If that's true, then why would you do it? Why
Well,
would you expose yourself to this? Because now, if his career, think about it,
It's
his career
over.
may really be hurting, especially if he's convicted.
He will never work again in Hollywood, ever. He will never work again because this is a fabricated, it's way too close to home, and it's touched on way too many raw emotions given where our society has gone in the last couple of years. And put it this way, if jurors convict Smollett, his lack of criminal history and the fact that no one was seriously hurt, make actual time behind bars unlikely, in my opinion. It's more likely that a judge would sentence him to probation and perhaps order him to perform community service, because it seems more like, that's where it would go and where they're going to negotiate. But this is a big Hollywood play out, a big Hollywood brouhaha. And at the end of the day, if you are this much of an accomplished actor where you're making like $2 million a year on the #1 rated show in America, Empire, and that's not enough attention for you, then he definitely needs to seek professional help and counseling, because clearly they all knew each other. So this wasn't a hate crime coming out of left field.
Right, so you got all the moving parts here to make this a real sort of Hollywood drama. So it's really Hollywood playing out in the courtroom, because you got race, you got politics, you have homophobia, all these little really salacious, sort of scandalous talking points going out in that courtroom through these testimonies, through these witnesses. And we'll wait and see. Jussie Smollett, maybe this is his chance to really put himself in the spotlight, not behind the camera, but on the stand in court. And we'll wait to see if he testifies.
Yeah, the one big, great monologue. Can't wait to see that one play out. Listen, Imran, we're out of time, but it was such a pleasure chatting with you. I always love covering the scandal segment with my one and only.
Thank you, Zen. Always great to be on with you.
Absolutely. You guys are listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. That was Imran Ansari, partner at ABK Law, legal expert and analyst, and our returning contributor for the scandal segment. We'll be right back after this.